While she's doing the final steps in our process, remember, we're on live stream.
Smile.
Are we on?
You're lucky over there.
So don't use the gavel and hit your iPhone call.
Yeah, the talent portion will not be televised.
Put that away.
Okay, we're live.
We're really cutting into the rating for the debate tonight, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, zero rating they had last time.
Welcome everybody to the May 23rd, no, June 27th, Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Roll call.
I can do it here. Oh, I got it. Sorry, I'm just shuffling the papers, unless you want to.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Chair Wojcicki,
Here.
Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Scott,
Here?
Commissioner Hammond,
Here.
Commissioner Sprunger, Commissioner Compton,
Here.
Commissioner Rubus.
Here.
Alternate Bevan,
Here.
Alternate Bachert,
Here.
Commission Liaison Greg Nani, Council Liaison Edens,
Yep.
Council Liaison Taylor.
Thank you all for coming.
Fantastic. So my opening remarks are, we got a cool meeting tonight, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, a lot of neat stuff.
I know
It's really exciting.
That's why I wore this jacket.
It's not going to be boring. So there's my introductory comments, and I just want to welcome Alan.
Thank you.
Locker?
Doctor, right.
Okay.
I tell everybody the composer plus ERT, and now you'll remember it.
Ah, that's perfect.
Well, welcome to the commission. This is the fun commission. We like to think of ourselves.
It looks like it. Thank you.
Mr. Bachart's a longtime resident of Wildwood. He's been a trustee. We know how much work that is.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Chesterfield Rotary, member of the board of directors for Missouri Lutheran District of Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. What's your bachelor's degree?
My bachelor's is in economics and psychology. I was a double major.
Okay, we gotta watch you. But welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
I'll refer to you as Sebastian Barker.
Sebastian Barker.
Josh is here. So I'll accept the motion to approve the
We're on live stream.
historic preservation minutes for May 23rd.
I looked them over and I so deep that we accepted.
Should we make the motion?
I second.
Second.
Okay, you want me to say? Your
Discussion.
choice. Okay.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
So now, the next item on the agenda is the election of officers for 2019 to 2020. We seek nominations here.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we usually ask for nominations from the floor. If there are multiple nominations for one of the positions, we'll usually go around the table and ask them to say the name, and the one with the most names or the most members voting for them will be that person. We have three positions, as you know, chair, vice chair, and secretary. We can start with the secretary, we can start with the vice chair, or we can start with the chair.
Start with the secretary.
Point of order.
Jim?
Are you willing to stay on as chair?
Well, we can start with the chair.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
I am, sure.
Okay. Steve, are you willing to stay into your position?
Yes.
As long as I show up all the time.
Yeah. But it's,
Then I'd like to nominate Jan as the vice chair.
So, as chair would be Mr. Wojciechowski, as vice chair, Ms. Stevens, and secretary,
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott. Mr. Chair, I would ask if there's,
Just come looking for me.
ask if there's any other nominations from the floor.
Any other nominations?
good.
Mr. Chair, we need a second to the motion Mr. Rubus has made.
I'll second those nominations.
Okay, Steve, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Congratulations, all of you.
All right, so public comment. So the public-
They were clear.
But you gotta ask. So maybe come out of the woodwork. So new business, we got 3 items ready for action.
Actually, 4.
Four. Okay. So I'm just gonna list them all 4 of those. Collaboration with the Economic Development Committee, and is there anybody from the, are you on the?
Yes, I am, yes.
Committee to host the Route 66 event at Big Chief. We got the Route 66 Roadside Park. Fundraising ideas for the Essex Lawn Cabin reconstruction, and then byway text for the 2019 points of interest map. So the first item we'll talk about is the collaboration with the Economic Development Committee to host a Route 66 event at Big Chief.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to depend on Council Member Edens to help me as we get a little more into the discussion. Because as the title of this particular subject indicates, the Economic Development Committee of City Council is also considering how best to approach this event, what assistance the city can provide, etc. The Department of Planning was first approached by the owner of the restaurant, Ms. Mulholland, about participation. We had provided participation in her 5-year anniversary several years ago. We gave a small stage for the band. We helped with some of the portable restroom facilities, the wash stations, and then had an officer there just to ensure that traffic control would be acceptable. Seemed to work out well, but obviously she celebrated another anniversary, but more importantly, the 90th year that the Big Chief, at least the restaurant portion, has been located on Route 66 or Manchester Road. She came to the department was glad to participate. The Economic Development Manager, Julian Jacqueline, was also in attendance. We talked a lot about different opportunities for the event itself and how the city could assist in that regard. Primarily, we were talking about logistics, the stage, lighting, sound, wash stations, portable restroom facilities, police, etc. It wasn't until Ms. Mulholland was asked and invited to present or talk to the Economic Development Committee about the business climate in Wildwood that the momentum kind of started picking up, and the Economic Development Committee, of which Ms. Edens is one of the 8 members, wanted to do, I think, a little bit more than just kind of be in the background and also maybe have a presence at the event. And from our perspective, we thought that was a great opportunity to present to you as commission members tonight. How would you like to present the Historic Preservation Commission at that event, if you choose? And if so, the options we provided, do you see some there that you like, dislike? Are there ones that Kathy and I missed? And I'll just go briefly through them. I think the simplest thing we can do as members of the Historic Preservation Commission, residents of Wildwood, is to basically promote the event. Some of you have Facebook pages, some of you have other social media, many of you live in neighborhoods. It's just things like that that ensures that people know about the event, and those people that can will attend and make it a successful event for the restaurant owner, which I would equate to a successful event for the city. The thought that I think Kathy and I had kind of gleaned on real quick is maybe we could have a booth down there on that day. That'll be right after the Celebrate Wildwood event on August 24th. And we could hand out the history book with ones we have left over, the points of interest map. We have our banner on Route 66. We have information on the pond community. So we could have a nice presence there. It would require, obviously, some volunteers from the commission to help staff the booth. Certainly between Kathy and I, we can be the staff component to help make things hopefully run as efficient as possible. So that was one that we thought might be a good opportunity, and get an opportunity also to listen to some music, eat some good food, and hopefully enjoy a beautiful day in September. Just if the restaurant team needs anything to help them, endorse the city's role in the event. I think that's a big one to a certain degree for us. Again, as we look at opportunities, usually those opportunities beyond your time and your resources may mean taxpayer dollars. And if we're doing something, obviously the support of this commission carries a very, very long way with our city council. Attend the event. Even if you can't do anything else, come on down for dinner or just stick around for a few songs. If you have a vintage vehicle, circa 1932 or younger, come on by and you can park it in the lot, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of people looking at you and wanting to know about it. Again, just another thing, inform your family and friends and neighbors about it. And then finally, if you do attend, if you have Facebook, you might post something from there, Twitter, get people interested to follow your page or other pages that you like that hopefully would equate to, again, a successful event. As I started, I think Kathy and I feel this isn't a comprehensive list. It's a list, and certainly if we choose a few, it'll probably keep us pretty busy that day. But again, we wanted to get your imagination started, and we're here to hear if you think any of them are worth pursuing. If not, if you have others you'd like to suggest, we'll write them down. We'll pass them on to the Economic Development Committee, and then we can coordinate as the two entities to do the best we can and make this a successful event for that historic asset. And with the permission of the chair, I know this was discussed this past Tuesday, so I'd like to have the opportunity for Ms. Edens to describe what the council committee talked about.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. When Mrs. Mulholland came, one of the things she talked about was the opportunity that we'd have through Big Chief's 90th anniversary to raise awareness not only of her own business, but other businesses on Route 66, sort of a shop Route 66 visit travel movement. So not only does this need to highlight Big Chief, but any information that the Historical Society provides or promotes, it would be good to be very general with Route 66, but also other businesses. So we've kicked around some ideas in economic development to kind of create an event that would supplement what will be happening in front of Big Chief. One idea we had was either some sort of 5K or essentially a dog walk that would possibly go through part of the historic original Route 66, which is actually through private property, kind of wrap around and then come back out in front of the Big Chief area. So there's some ideas where we would try to get a continual event going, not only to celebrate the anniversary, but to really draw more people out. So I took some notes during economic development, and initially they had some questions on where the economic development mission stops and the historic preservation mission takes over. And a lot of that is informational based and signage based. So I know economic development really wants input and help on what types of signs would be appropriate to have. One of the things that Mr. Cross mentioned that went over really well in the committee would be a banner that actually spans and goes up and over the road. Which would be pretty nice. We also discussed in economic development maybe somehow including stove walls as well, or getting people kind of out there. There was some discussion about whether you all knew about there was an original bridge, I suppose, on that property, and whether or not that was something that we could have access to. So I think this is about you helping economic development with the shape and the look of the event. And if you have attendees, what you would want them to learn about the area and then take away. And so it could not only be Wildwood specific, but especially if, I know an old car was mentioned on this list, I thought that was really neat. It might be nice if someone actually did that for the historic, for us really, to maybe have a sign with, here's what gas cost in 1932, here was the average speed this vehicle could travel, and here's how much gas could fit in a tank. Things like that that would help make it a learning environment. And, you know, I could see a little child go, wow, it only went, 65 miles an hour, something like that. So did I miss anything, Mr. Greenwich?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think that's about it. But we were just so impressed when Stephanie came to speak to us, and we thought it was really significant that she was asking economic development to be significantly more active and create Route 66 interaction and events and a draw, and something that included businesses beyond her own. So that's just so special to have a 90th anniversary for her business and for her to say, actually, I want it to include all of Old Manchester. So that's kind of where we're at.
There was a Route 66 5K right before.
Yes, we used to hold it on the last Saturday of October.
Okay. So that should do that. It's definitely something that's been done before and
Yeah, and
coordinated with this event.
it started, I should say, at Wildwood Middle School, so right across the street. We went out west on Manchester Road and just came back. It's a great place to end. We could probably move the finish line closer to the Big Chief if we wanted to do that. It was a 5K run and walk, and then we had a kids run, which I think was about a half mile or a mile.
When was the last time it was done?
We moved it to Community Park this year.
Okay.
So it was probably 15 years out on Route 66.
Yeah, I think we started it in '01 or '02 and through
Okay.
2017.
Is it a good turnout, or?
In the early years, yes, we'd have 250, 300 runners. And the last few years, which is the reason we changed the location, there's about 8 or 9 events that day, other runs around the region. And so, there's just so much competition. And
Towards the end of October specifically?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's really pretty out there.
Yeah.
The trees have turned. And we go into part of Rockwood's reservation. It's just a nice scenic run, I think.
So this coordinated with this event on the 14th would work. It wouldn't mess with that one. This would be it.
Well,
Would it-
we've even changed it more. We're moving it to a Friday night, and it'll include parts of Zombie Road.
A zombie run.
Yep.
The shivering shadows now.
Mhm.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I may do that one.
I don't like using Zombie Road, but that's part of the shtick to get people there.
So as far as the HBC booth, if we do it from like 11 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock or something?
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest we be there in the evening when the lighting's limited and, it's more of a concert venue than, let's say, anything at that stage. But certainly, yeah, we could be there at the start of the event and we could stay for 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever you choose.
And it'd be good to have history of that building. That'd be a great, because most people don't realize, some of the history, so that's one thing we can highlight.
On the back of their menu, they've got a pretty good history of that building. I mean, that could be printed up and given out, because you gotta give them the menu back after you order it.
Right.
Have them print that out in a brochure and give that to people, and we could do that out of the booth.
And we can show, we got plenty of banners that we can take for this there. We got the Route 66 banner. If we have this banner. The other thing I was thinking about is, we've got all this task about signing in markings on Route 66. It'd be nice to roll that out, if we could, about the same time.
I'd love to. But we had a retirement at the company that provided our signage for the historic communities. A lady retired, she was replaced. And the turnaround just isn't in the same type of
Any graphics?
So Kathy makes it a point to call them almost every week just to get an update.
Chasing water uphill.
Are you paying them for it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe we can find somebody else if they don't deliver on time. and then
I've always
we need
had
it.
such great luck with that company. And, you know, but you're right, if we can't get the service, we need to look elsewhere.
And that's for the banner, right?
No,
But
this
we were
is-
talking about the other signs.
The other signage, the signage that we would have on the streetlights as part of the streetscape, and then other signage in association with the entirety of the road. To complement what the state's place, the scenic byway information.
In the paper, we were talking about pavement markings at some point too. And I got some PowerPoint that has some visuals of that.
I know the public works people don't like them because they wear out, but I think they're nice myself.
Well, it all depends on, if you use paint, it's not gonna last, but if you use MMA material, all you have to do is get the stencil, and that lasts at least 7 years.
Are you talking about paint on the street?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'll show you a picture of what there was in a lane, I was kind of thinking in a bike lane, so it'd have more life, but you can put it in the travel lane too, and I got a picture of what that looks like.
What is our specific, what do we want to specifically stress in this? Is it the Big Chief, or is it Route 66?
It's a big chief event, but it's on Route 66, so she's gonna be playing that up, and she wants to pull in the rest of
And so
businesses
what?
along Route 66.
So as far as other businesses and things coming in, that's an economic development issue, not a,
Well, I think what the problem is we can reach out to the businesses, but we're not aware of the history or what should go into a brochure for other businesses on Route 66.
well, that's what
So,
I
yeah,
was kind
if-
of getting at.
Yeah.
Do we have buy-in from those businesses?
Well, I'm almost thinking of the promotional brochure for Wildwood,
Mhm.
Wildwood businesses, of Route 66 and the businesses along it.
Yeah,
I know Joplin's pushing it really hard, and this is something that we can push too, because we've got plenty of businesses along
Right.
it. Um,
I agree. I think there should be at least one aspect that's all encompassing, but it would be nice if there was either a separate handout or just something separate just for Big Chief, so that we don't completely lose that focus. After all, it is a celebration of that, so I think
Okay, so that's.
it's kind of an
that's
odd
where
answer,
we're
but
focused
both.
on.
I would still say both, because she really wants to make sure that this leads to further visits for the community, because she really sees success as a street and as a district as part of her business mission.
Don't we have something planned in the future for Route 66 when we get all the signage, and I mean, a separate focus just for the road?
Yes, the commission may recall, at the end of 2018, we
Right.
created a work program.
Right.
And one of those items on that work program is what you described.
And would that Route 66 park be in existence when that?
No, there's
That's a good question. We're closing on it, I think, July 9th. So it'll be under city ownership here in less than 2 weeks. But there's always a planning, design, engineering,
Yeah.
bidding, construction.
And just to get a brochure, I mean, if we do a brochure that could be ongoing, but you put Big Chief on the cover of that thing, that gets her top billing, and it
That's
is kind
true.
of one of the jewels, right?
It
But
is.
then, so
Mhm.
if that's on the cover, and that's gonna be a stretch to get something like that together pretty quick. And then, design it, make it look good. But just a trifold or something like that, and that doesn't have to be huge, just a trifold that promotes Route 66 in Wildwood.
It's up to the commission, how you would like to proceed. If there's something, a handout that's inclusive of the Big Chief plus other businesses located along historic Route 66.
Well, for quickness, you know, that brochure is more of an economic development thing, but if the information that we have on our Route 66 banner, you know, let's not recreate the wheel. You know, that's on a banner, but you can put that on the back of the brochure too. That provides that history, but then you got your economic development promotion in the rest of the brochure with, you know, nice pictures and just the name of the businesses that we want to, you know, show off on there, and even the whole list of businesses that are in operation. And that shouldn't take too much to put together.
Well, maybe the crafting of it would probably be something we could do, but we'd have to have Economic Development Committee review it and you all review it. If you're not counting, we probably only have one meeting between now and then.
And it's not gonna, it wouldn't be able to be done at meetings, we'd have to do it.
No, we'd have to.
Emails,
Right.
to get approvals that way. Get it in enough time.
So,
I was gonna say, I'd like to commit to a booth, and I'd be more than willing to try to help organize the volunteers for that, and volunteer my time for that, in addition to some of the other items on the list of helping to promote the event ahead of time, social media during the event, after the event, even ahead of time as well.
I'm all for the booth, yeah. I think it went so well.
It goes very well. It's
So,
great.
yeah, I think,
Yeah.
to do that again, but concentrate on 66 and the Big Chief, and move
Is
those
this-
banners up in the front.
Is this something that, I know the Economic Development Committee is going to partake in some effort here, but is this something that the West County Chamber of Commerce can be leveraged to see if they do anything to help promote?
Well, certainly the WBA will.
Yeah.
Julian vouch for that.
But just, I'm just thinking from a
Yes, yeah.
brochure and a marketing perspective, is there a way to leverage other resources to maybe get some of that done? That being said, if we have connections to be able to reach out to the businesses along in Wildwood and say, hey, we're putting this together, do you have anything you'd like to provide from a historical perspective that we can highlight? I don't know if that falls to us or if that falls to the economic development or it falls to someone else, but I would think you might be able to at least reach out, and business doesn't respond, thanks, sorry, we don't have any info, we can't make it out. So,
Well, as partners, you know, we could definitely do the booth. That's definitely something that's in our capacity. If we can even accelerate markings and signs, that's the other thing that if we can, you know, if we can get that going, so it can, at least some of it, even if it's just in her section of road, that's what we can control. But that's still, it's coming up fairly fast.
it is.
Yeah, if we put a booth with our banners and the book, the history book, and a brochure about the Big Chief, and be schooled enough to answer questions about the Big Chief, I think that's, you know, that'd be good participation.
So does the society have any information, a deeper history on that?
well, the property is on the registry, the historic.
National Registry of Historic Places. There's a very lengthy history of their application.
And their application covers almost everything and has references to the old architectural drawings, site plans, things like that. So we can make that available to all of you.
It's
Those
actually
that-
on our website.
Oh, it's already on the website. So if you wanted to participate, you could, you know, do a little cram session before the event and make yourself an expert, so to speak.
The restaurant is one facility, but there's some other structures there too. I think that was motels.
Yes, it used to be a roadside motel, and the Big Chief was the lobby and the dining area. I'm old enough to remember the hotel rooms. They weren't in great shape, but they were still there.
The cottage just went way, way back.
Yeah.
away
Like a
from-
shotgun, no bullshit.
Yeah. And I don't know what property is back there, what remains of those, if there's any, you know,
Yeah.
pieces left of the cottages, or maybe be able to walk back there and see that.
I can certainly ask.
But then there's other, in our resource book of all the historic buildings, just to pull those out of that book, the ones that are along 66, the houses, the other businesses. I don't know what, like, I guess the Pond Inn, I don't know if there's anything on the hotel. I don't know. The hotel never made it in, it was gone before the book went together, or the,
The county historian, Esley Hamilton, had something on that, so we could insert that if you like.
in there, and they went all the way out to Stovall, you know, and this was the old 66, and
Well, yeah, that's what, we're doing it for the Big Chief. Will other businesses then expect the same type of reciprocation for their business?
I'll leave that to economic development. Sorry, Miss Edens.
No, they can always ask.
Because I think, Stovall's would be, kind of in the same road, and.
But isn't it a Big Chief event that we're participating in?
Yes.
It's not a historic committee that
No,
Big Chief
right.
is participating in, so.
Yeah, I was just saying though, we do this one and then somebody
Well,
else
yeah.
comes up and says, I'm
Eventually.
not doing one for me.
Right, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad thing to have, is be able to continue it somewhere down the line.
if they want to put a party on, we'll come to it.
That's exactly right.
Oh, man.
Kathy, does Wildwood have a list of just the businesses that are on 66? Are they keyed in with a little 66 logo anywhere?
They are, but I think that would be pretty easy to get.
Because that's what Lauren was saying,
Yeah.
economic development is the whole city, not just what's along 66. If there was a way to do that, we
Yeah,
could
we could.
type it up on a piece of paper. We don't have to have a formal brochure and pass it out at the event also,
I think it would be easy to just do a query of the
Yeah.
businesses in town and pull those out. Yeah.
But like I said, we don't have a lot of time between now and August.
So, Mr. Chair, I've heard the booth,
Definitely the booth.
some social media promotion.
Is there an organized car show? The car,
No,
no.
Stovall used to have one.
I don't
Great
know if
Dunnies
one.
did.
Now, Ms. Mulholland said she was going to contact the Missouri Route 66 Association, advise them. We're a member of that, like the Big Chief Roadhouse. And I wasn't sure, she wasn't sure if she was going to do the car show for two reasons. One, she needs parking in her lot. And then two, we talked about maybe going across the street at Wildwood Middle School, but they have a lot of activities on Saturday there, like football and other. So we just didn't know if we could fit it all in.
Well, even so the rail haven down in Springfield, it's the only place I stay when I go to Springfield. It's on historic Route 66. They got 2 historic cars out in front all the time. She doesn't need to do the full car show. She gets a couple bright colored historic cars that she puts out in front. At the entrance.
In her parking lot, yeah.
That would draw attention, or even under that front overhang. Keep them out of the sun. That would draw attention to that business too, without having a full-blown car show. Just find a couple of them. Because those things stick out like a sore thumb when you go past those places. And I know the Rail Haven has those sitting up in front. It's just a cool vibe.
Can we encourage people along that strip to kind of clean up?
Joe could definitely encourage that. Or anonymous person, with code enforcement maybe?
If you're talking about Sonny's Automotive, then,
I was thinking more like the Gringo Jones look there at
oh,
Seaboss.
it has reached another level, I will give you that. It's very colorful. I don't know, maybe that's part of the uniqueness of Route 66.
I mean, it can't be too polished.
Right, no.
Gotta be a little
Showing face.
rosy.
Yeah, so the weeds are down and the grass is cut.
So the thing is, maybe some kind of, if we can get some kind of, history together on that building, and that would be a highlight for the booth as well as the banners.
Well, I think the Route 66 State Park, in their museum, they've got a lot of information about 66. And maybe they have information that's not on display, or maybe they have things that would apply to this part of the original 66. And whether there's some way we could go to them and ask for loans or information or, records that they might have that we could display here for the day and return to them. But they've got some interesting stuff in their museum.
Does our Route 66 start at the stoplight at 100 in Manchester?
The eastern end of town. So, Paul, Mr. Chair, sorry, did the state bike route along Route 66 get finalized?
Yeah, it's all finalized.
And that goes by the Big Chief, right?
Yeah.
So we could have those to hand out as well.
Yeah, and then actually, in the adventure cycling brochure and map, their Big Chief is in there.
Okay.
I think it's maybe number 1 listed there, so that's something that we definitely should have on hand, because people,
Okay.
I mean, that's a good promotion. That, I don't know that, I mentioned that to Stephanie one time, I said, did you know that you're number 1 on this map, in the listing? She didn't have a clue.
We can certainly have a lot of information at our booth. So again, I've got the booth, some signage and banners, possibly a short brochure with some interesting history facts, social media, and you all, a group of you volunteering.
But then for the for the economic committee, the Wildwood Hotel, it's a half a block, it's a block off of, or the historic route. And Europeans, they make a whole vacation driving that whole route. And if you can promote that you got a hotel that's almost adjacent to it, it'd be nice to go on it, but it's pretty close to it. That's another promotion, that thing, the hotel could promote that, as far as being along Route 66. I can think of all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I've been on a bent on Route 66 bent lately, so trying to figure out how to promote that through Wildwood as much as possible. We had to kind of strong arm the state as far as to get the bike route coming through us and not going down to Eureka. But we swayed them.
That was you, Gary, and you, not me. Good job.
I don't know where we are on copyright law, but you could get your kicks on Wildwood's Route 66.
So, when you Google Wildwood, Missouri, Route 66, a website for planning your Route 66 traveling comes up. And it's interesting, it mentions the old WPA travel guide, Missouri, a guide to the Show Me State from 1941. It makes a comment that it really only mentioned like Historic Pond as opposed to the other areas that it went through. But what if we could get copies of original travel brochures for Missouri Route 66? And I suspect the State Historical Society in Columbia might have a couple copies of something, or even if it's an ad in an old newspaper. newspaper, or the Missouri Historical Society. Would you like me to contact them, or would you like to just see what I can dig up? It'd be really nice if we could find an old copy of a poster. I mean, from working some at the State Historical Society in Columbia, I mean, I know they have newspapers that go back to the, through the 1800s, so I would imagine there would be.
Did they have a book?
Do they have a book?
I mean, I thought it was,
I would
they had a
think.
book where you started out at, one end of 66 and it gave you all the
I would
places you
think.
could stop and
Yeah.
had advertising.
Maybe we could just blow up the localized ads or the pages and make a banner out of that. I'll see if I can get a hold of
I think the
it.
Missouri Historical Society would have something
They,
to start with.
yeah, or the State Historical Society, and both of them. I'll try it.
Unfortunately, the tourism book that I grabbed when I was in Springfield last doesn't seem to be us in there. So we need to talk to Missouri Tourism about that, to get us on the map, something in the book somehow. Although Route 66 went everywhere, it's like everywhere.
Yeah.
Very true.
But we got that original bridge that's by the Historical Society. I don't know that we want people trudging around back there, but that's a pretty cool thing. And then this section up here. That's another cool segment too. That's right off our trail, right? Exactly. And that's the original pavement too. Yes, it is.
On a side note, it's probably easier to try the Missouri Historical Society, because a lot of the state historical societies, you have to go through the microfilm and the microfiche, and none of those are digitized with search words, and we're not exactly there to do it. But if we give them enough notice, they'll actually do it for you.
That right-of-way that goes off of Manchester, is that owned by the property owner of that piece of property, or is that still a right-of-way?
Mr. Rubis, that's a very good question, and I'll address that at a later point in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a nice
Perfect
surprise.
It's a segue.
Okay, so I think we got plenty of things that, we
Yep.
can do, and anything we can do to support that.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, and having the Historical Preservation Committee represented there is a good deal, I think. Gives us a chance to talk up what we're trying to do as a commission.
And I think what we'd like to go is beyond just this event. And that's why it's on, our work program, is we want to bring attention to this historic route. So if it's historical, that's cool, it's economic, that's even better. It's a synergy between a lot of commissions and committees.
Good deal.
All right, well, we'll get some things rolling on our end, and we'll send you an email, not this coming week, but the following week, just summarizing the things we're doing, so you can kind of get an idea for your scheduling. Thank you.
And that doesn't even count the bike ride or tour of Wildwood. It'd be nice, and I talked to Brett about making this kind of a Route 66 event this year, to keep up that momentum and highlight that, because I don't know half the people know that they're on it. Right? Okay, so the next item is the roadside park.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, sure you won't remember all the little details relating to the project that was started by Greater Missouri Builders many years ago. It's called Grover Crossing. It's completed. Greater Missouri Builders was a victim of the Great Recession. And Bride and Son Homes ultimately developed the property and changed the makeup of it But in the end, I think a good project came out of a bad situation. As part of that project, as is explained in the memorandum, it was designated under the town center as two land use categories, one being workplace, which is commercial, and the other being residential. The workplace area is highlighted on the aerial photograph by the kind of turquoise line. That area was approved for two small commercial buildings and a parking lot that would be to the rear of them or closest to the residential homes that are part of the subdivision. The commercial component never drew any interest. In the entire time that it's been part of that project, I have only talked to one potential developer, and that developer ultimately found that given its size, the proximity to the residential area, they just didn't think it was an appropriate location for their business. The purchase of the property by the city came more by accident in that as part of the Manchester Road Phase 3 streetscape, we needed additional easement area on that particular property and many others on either side of it. The depth of the lot, characteristics of the lot caused the owner to be a little apprehensive about participating in the easement. Mr. Rick Brown, our Director of Public Works, and I did our best to convince him that we didn't think it would be a problem. But at the conclusion of our discussion, the owner said, well, would you like to purchase it? And our first reaction, at least mine, was we can't afford commercial property in the middle of town center. The gentleman basically said, I'll sell it to you for what I paid, because he bought it from one of those asset recovery corporations that formed after the recession. So that ended up being about just under $70,000. We are paying $75,000 for it to cover some of the taxes and things along those lines. But here very shortly, July 9th, that property will be part of the city of Wildwood in terms of ownership. We talked about what could be there. Certainly we need a little of the area for our Phase 3 streetscape. That'll be along Manchester Road or historic Route 66. There was a committee that was formed early this year that looked at issues along Manchester Road for the business community. And one of the things that was identified by that committee, that volunteer committee of residents and council representatives, is that in this area, particularly with 3 French hens, additional parking would be beneficial. And so we thought about a municipal parking lot, which led then to, well, why not a trailhead? We'll need parking for that. We can do some bike areas, maybe a shade structure or something, and complement that. Then that ultimately led, and I don't know whose idea it was, well, why don't we make a Route 66 Roadside Park? We've been looking for a location potentially for our 12th historic marker, which would be about Route 66. It could be here. There's plenty of locations it could be, quite frankly. And so tonight, Kathy and I are presenting the idea to you, give feedback if you think that would be a good approach to it. If you think it is, we'd like to send your thoughts to the city council, saying that if we do complete the acquisition and move forward, we'd like it to lean more toward a Route 66 theme and not much else. And certainly then the Historic Preservation Commission would have a major role in its future design, engineering, development, and hopefully someday a very successful ribbon cutting to open it to use. Mr. Chair, with that, Kathy and I are available and be glad to answer any of your questions or respond to your comments.
The property just to the east of that, what is that and what's planned for that? That's commercial property too, is it not?
Yes, a gentleman, very nice man, Ken Meyer, who owned one of the gymnastic facilities, used to be over in Schnucks Wildwood Crossing. He was going to build a gymnastic facility there, and got very far in the process. The property was rezoned, the site development plan was approved, improvement plans, construction drawings were approved, and Architectural Review Board approved the design. He went to the bank in 2008 and said, I'm ready to go, and the bank said, we're not lending anybody any money right now. And that pretty much crushed his dream. So Ken Meyer owns it, takes very good care of it, cuts the grass, doesn't make it it's not a problem for us. But I don't know what his future plan is. And he was one of the first ones, just so you know how good a guy he is, to sign off on all the easements we needed.
Yeah. I just want, anyway, it's, whether the one side, the west with the road, and we know that little shopping center there and the dentist, we know what's there, but we don't know what's going to be on the east side and what kind of impact that could have, you know, on our parks.
A bike shop.
I mean, there could be some things that would really be good.
I got a picture of that roadside park in Springfield.
Okay.
I'm going to show you. I went way beyond that, but I just got visuals to grab, signage, visuals, so it coordinates with a later, you know, things too.
Well, Mr. Scott, if I had a crystal ball, and I don't know, at least in certain locations, I don't know how many new commercial buildings are ever going to be built again. I just
Well,
don't know.
I agree.
It does, yeah, I don't see any big.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
That's great.
yeah.
That's what you were talking about
Yeah.
with the stencil.
Pavement marking.
Mhm.
Now, this is in the center of a lane, you know, and this would get a lot of traffic. But this, I mean, this would be cool. You could do it in a bike lane too if you want more longevity and not so big. But, you know, I mean, this kind of gets it out there. So this was my vision of a pavement marking in the lane.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you do paint, yeah, it's gonna rub off, but if you use MMA, which I got experience in using, and you can just get a stencil made, and that'll last a while.
What's MMA?
Yeah.
It's a epoxy.
Oh.
It comes in a bucket. Actually, the green, not the one over here, that's the bad one. The one over here at 109, that's an MMA material, and that's holding up, that's about 5 years in.
Which
What, yeah, what are you referring
The
to?
green bike lane.
By the park.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So,
oh.
and that was a
Old Manchester.
freebie, that was a freebie I got from the manufacturer to show the longevity of the product. So that's the kind of material I'm talking about. You can do thermoplastic too. That's a mural on the side of the wall. So people do that. That's a sign that you could get made.
You could have Wildwood where it says that.
Yeah. I think the Wildwood logo, Route 66 thing would be awesome.
And that's in Springfield. That's in the parking garage. You can see they got a big Route 66 bent on that. That's pretty classy looking, but it definitely, you know, it kind of highlights that. And then this is the Roadside Park in Springfield. It's really right around the corner from where my daughter's living right now. But this is actually a roadside park that they developed, and that's all. This is all bioretention right here. That's all bioretention, so it's really, really nice looking. It's got native plantings in it, but that's actually a parking lot, and it's porous concrete, parallel parking along that squiggly line there. And it's got that roadside park sign. It's got an old sign. The giant hamburger, I think. I'm not sure what that was, but that sign up here. That's kind of patterned after an old business that was along there. But that's that fire retention.
I was just gonna say that too.
It's a really cool bike rack. So that's what the Springfield did along, you know, with the roadside park. And that's pretty elongated, so it's kind of big. but you can compress it to, that bike rack's just to the, on the far, on the left picture, it's just down the hill just a little bit. And that's just a business that's just up the street from it. They've got their front all done up, maybe too many signs for us, but kind of highlights Route 66. And then there's a banner that, street light banners. It's another easy way to highlight things. If we can get a couple of those, I know we got decorative light poles across from, or just up the way from the Big Chief. Yeah, so, I mean, those can go right there. If we can get a couple of them fairly timely, that'd be a highlight.
Is there, you mentioned, you called it a trailhead potentially, or a need for a trailhead. Is there plans to have a trail, walking path along Manchester on that side of the city as well?
Well, we dedicated bicycle lanes as part of the new roadway service.
Okay.
And then there'll be pedestrian sidewalks.
Okay.
I think they're 8-footers. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
So kind of the trailhead component is more the bike lanes.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay.
But we are making that connection on the sidewalks. Currently, that's the project from the roundabout at Taylor all the way to Atherton. So there will be that whole pedestrian connection.
Are there
Plans, go ahead.
I was saying, how about do we envision sort of like an interpretive center, or, not a center, but, just stuff about where the route was here, and you mentioned old pavement or something. Is that what we're envisioning, as some sort of an historic, discussion along with?
I think if we didn't do it, we'd miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
Are there plans, good. Are there plans to have like a building of some sort, or like a bathroom or something that we could almost gear it towards that? And, promote that sort of thing with maybe a map, in front, displaying the Route 66, and just kind of have it a theme that we can, get more press and just really emphasize on that.
We thought that'd be like you jamming a lot on that side. So if you're gonna do parking at all, it's kind of interpretive signage. That's not a very, very big parcel.
Half acre.
We need the other one too,
Parking
right?
for the business.
There is public sanitary sewer service. Most of our parks don't have it, so this one does. The other thing, Mr. Sprunger, is the thing I struggle with district facilities and parks. You can build a house for a 2-seater. You literally can. The one in Anniversary Park was like $120,000.
Wow. People flush everything down the toilet.
And it is really used.
Pardon?
That one is really used a lot.
Yes. I know it's popular for, purposes it's there, but I was thinking to myself, you could probably build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for that. And have more bathrooms.
Have a shower.
It wouldn't be usable.
Yeah.
So those are the adventure cycling guides that I was talking about. That's through Adventure Cycling. I'm sure you can order those. I don't know how much, they're not super cheap. I got a freebie for helping with stuff. But then this is the Route 66 route signing this is one example of a half marathon sign or logo that they use. It should be a good, cool promotion too. But this is the basic MoDOT signs. I've been talking to MoDOT a little bit this week. So, okay, what kind of signs are you gonna put up? Which let people put up across the state? And those are kind of, if you ask me, these are pretty ugly.
They're really,
And I told them, and that's a standard sign that they said. And I said, you're not gonna get a whole lot of communities wanting to chip in for that. They're gonna want that one up to the upper right, that's kind of cool. And if we kind of take ownership over our section of Old Manchester, we can do whatever the heck we want. And MoDOT can do their own thing. But that kind of highlights the bike route in a good way, which, how many people know what this is? That doesn't.
I don't know.
What does 76 refer to?
That's another
Historic road.
Oh, okay.
It's the Trans-America Trail.
Oh, Trans-American Trail.
And, you know, those are,
I agree.
I wouldn't spend any money on that one. And I told the Gallup Moda that, nah, nobody's gonna want to chip in for that.
Are you searching for the word cheesy?
No, that's standard engineering stuff, but, you know, that's not gonna fly to promote things. So that was my research on signing and some of the other, you know, pavement markings.
Park's a neat idea.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
And then the roadside park idea. So those are, I took those pictures because we were doing some work around there, and I thought that was cool. And actually, this wall across the street, there's a wall right here. They've got all kinds of Route 66 stuff on that wall. That's a little cheesy, but it's kind of, it's old.
kinda cool.
It's really
Yeah.
old, but it's really neat.
We need that wall up to where these auto agencies were that you were talking about.
Right.
So, Joe, are you looking for a motion to move forward on the development of the roadside park and parking trailhead for this from the Historic Preservation Committee?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Rivas. What I would request of the commission is an endorsement by motion and vote of calling it something Route 66 Roadside Park or whatever that ultimately you all agree upon, but naming it for Route 66.
So, a motion to recommend that.
I'll second. We'll all
Well,
second.
Everybody.
This side of the room.
Would you like to make a motion for amendment?
Certainly will do mine.
That it could, in addition to the naming, that it could focus on wheeled travel for motor vehicle and bicycle as a focus, and if it's a park, maybe it could be themed with, there's some, if it's a park with playground equipment, there's some either bike or automotive type of equipment that fits with that theme.
That could be a drawing itself. Because this is the only other one I know of that, well, other than the giant red rocking chair in Cuba. It's kind of neat, kids like climbing on that.
As I read this, the two commercial lots consist of a half acre. What is the approximate size of the lot we're gonna buy?
half acre.
Well, there are two half acre lots.
So, Mr. Rubus, there's an amendment to your original motion. Are you okay with that amendment?
What was the amendment?
To make it wheeled vehicle themed in some form, if it does have a park playgroundish type of setup.
Route 66.
But keep the 66.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm okay with that.
Besides the name, further enhance it with, in some form or function along those lines.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Who owns that little skinny piece of property right between the two lots?
Hamlin.
Mr. Meyer and Greater Missouri Builder said it's yours if you want it. So, and we did.
It's hard to build something on there, I think.
It would be, yeah.
Is that a one
Big enough
pass?
to put- It's big enough to put a bicycle down?
One pass with the mower.
Barely.
Reuse like car park benches, that'd be really fun. Maybe not that
Maybe we
one.
could work to get
Kathy,
like the
can you
world's
go back
largest
to
ball
that?
of twine.
You already,
They've already done that.
Yeah. Where is
We can beat 'em.
Larry's?
Where's the what?
Where is Larry's?
It's a gravel
Is that
lot.
that
Up
white-
there, up above Manchester,
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
Larry.
Yeah, okay.
That's like, this is 3 French hens, Baldwin Sinclair.
There's one house that's been renovated that I think is for sale along
See,
there.
like
isn't
this
it?
would be neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like.
Yeah, there's a,
Well, that's,
it was
Like a
it's a
bench
commercial
like that.
one
Yeah, that would be neat.
here
Yeah.
that's for sale.
Yeah.
but Butler Durrell's Security,
Yes.
they rehabbed that bungalow, and that's
Right.
their business sign out front you're seeing.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
on
thought
the
it was.
post.
There's also, Dr. Van Horn Beats, that building's for sale. as well.
Put a bike shop, that's what we need, is a bike shop.
I'll talk to Mike Wise, see if he wants Big Sharks Wildwood out here. Buying the bikes from.
Yeah, we could put historic bikes up there.
That's right.
Really?
Yeah, that'd be good.
So the other item, is that just an informational item as far as the ownership?
No, I'll need a recommendation. We'll get you.
So, next on the agenda, moving away from Route 66 for a second, is the fundraising ideas for the Essen Log Cabin reconstruction.
That's it. Thank you. This is it.
Oh, I'd be perfect.
Shut this off.
That's great. Yeah, that's really neat.
I'll
Leave
just
me alone,
show.
right?
As we've progressed in our workings on the reconstruction of the Essen Log Cabin, we always come back to the conversation of, we don't know how much it's going to cost, but we know it's going to be a lot. So the original bid, the only bid that we've had for the reconstruction was, as you'll recall, $130,000. That bid is now about 3 years old, so we're going to probably expect some inflation, but we'll see when we get the plans. So as we've worked towards the drafting of the plans, and someone asked a question before we started, I'll give you all a quick update on the work with Pattern Ives. That's the historic architectural firm that we've contracted with to draft those phase 1 construction plans. So they'll do a stick build and layout of all the logs to try and determine what goes where, since they were stolen before we could tag them. So the story just continues with the Essen Log Cabin. Commissioner Stevens brought up to Joe and I that, what if we do like a barn raising to sell t-shirts with that theme in an effort to fundraise? And that got us thinking, there's probably the budget gets tighter and tighter each year. Maybe we can see what we can bring to the table when we also go to city council with this very large ticket of, we need to reconstruct this log cabin. So we just kind of did some brainstorming. There's 17 items that we listed in the memo, and we are here to ask your feedback. Do any of these sound, I don't think all 17 are feasible, but do any of these strike your fancy as more exciting, more in your all's area of interest or wheelhouse, and what we could kind of pull off? And I'll kind of run through them real quickly. So we talked about hosting an actual barn raising event during the construction process. Maybe we have an event out there and do it like a traditional barn raising and charge for tickets. We could sell brick pavers, similar to what we did at the old Pond School, where the patio out front is a brick paver patio, but then certain ones are engraved, and we could sell those. We could just encourage donations. It's actually, when I did some research, the National Trust, for Historic Preservation, that's one of the highest things they encourage in a successful fundraising effort is person to person asking for money. When a face is with it and a cause is with it, they say it's extremely successful. And there's a lot of corporations out there that offer matching gifts, so that could be a possibility. We could seek corporate sponsors. We could have an event with the Essen family. We could tell the history of the cabin, including its theft and recovery and all of those things. It's a pretty exciting tale when it comes down to it. And I'm sure they'd have a lot of family history that they could add to it as well. We could have a tour of log cabins within Wildwood, or there's lots of tour opportunities, historical homes or cemeteries, registries, historic churches, wonder schoolhouses, etc. We could charge a fee for events. Most of the events that the city hosts, we, our 5K walks and things we do charge for, but a lot of our events are free. So maybe instead of offering them for free to the community, all of the proceeds would go to the Essen reconstruction. We could sell raffle tickets for either items that were donated or do a 50-50. We'll just for time accept donations and then give away tickets. We could do a reenactment and charge a fee. We could have a community book sale where books are donated and then they're resold. We could do a restaurant night. Those are particularly popular with elementary schools and middle schools at the moment, where a restaurant or some business gives a portion of their proceeds. Conduct a penny or loose change drive where people are encouraged for a time to set that money aside and then donate it at the end. We could host events at the specific location and charge for those. We could have a history trivia night. Those are pretty successful. And then we could, just specific date-specific donations. So on the city's anniversary of September 1st, we asked people to just donate $9.01. And those, it's not a lot of money, but if we can get a lot of interest, it adds up pretty quickly. We could offer some raffle items such as front row seats to a Music on Main concert, premium parking at Celebrate Wildwood. We have pavilions that we charge for rental. We could maybe offer up a $100 pavilion rental at Community Park, things like that. And then finally, we could host an ice cream social and charge for entry and food. So that's kind of what the department came up, but at this point, we'd like to answer any questions and talk it through, see if anybody has specific items of interest or other items they want to talk about.
I would think in terms of donations, with the Celebrate Wildwood event, if we're doing the Big Chief event, we have our booth there. That potentially is a good opportunity, assuming we can get the donation logistics figured out. And then potentially some marketing materials around the log cabin and the history there. And I think, for me, I key on this stolen aspect of it, trying to spin that from a marketing perspective into something to try to draw up interest. What kind of numbers are you guys thinking we would want to try to, what would the goal be if we were trying to raise funds?
Conservatively, I think if we could say $150,000 would be the cost. Tim Kilby gave us a bid of $130,000 to give us a little bit of inflation, as well as just those contingencies that always seem to arise in any project. Certainly the city's going to participate. The question becomes, as we get closer to our budget cycle at the end of this year, what would be our goal? Should I ask, the Historic Preservation Commission says ask for $100,000 and we'll try to raise 50, or ask for $125,000 and we'll raise $25,000. That kind of thing. If you tell us what you think, I mean, I'll always go back and say the commission's committed to this, they want the money, they think it's going to cost X amount of dollars, they'd like that funded.
Okay, I know we joked about this as a committee. We mentioned the show Barnwood Builders.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we just didn't joke about it? What if we actually applied to be on the show? And what if they picked us up and that would offset the cost? I mean, can you imagine the publicity of being on a national TV show? And then the folks that would come that just want to watch the filming, I mean, it would be a huge event. So I don't know if you need a motion for it or if you think it's a good idea, but there's a way to apply on the website. They also have an active Facebook page and they have a Twitter. So I would think that the city could simultaneously tweet, write a Facebook post, call the 188 number, 888 number, and apply online. And I think it would be really catchy. Hey, come help us in Wildwood, Missouri, rebuild our cabin that was stolen. And really, because that's the type of thing that makes it interesting for, and why not? I mean, what do we have to lose? We can do that simultaneously.
Yeah, I think they should be able to tell us right away.
Yeah. Why not give it a shot?
Something they're interested in or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, they do good work.
Question not asked is.
Mm-hmm. And maybe just by tweeting at them and harassing them a little bit, somebody else in another organization would offer to help us. And we could still request council for money, but we could do it simultaneously. I mean, it's a neat show, and boy, we would get, I mean, the local news would be here. It might be picked up by the national news. It's just such an interesting story to have a cabin stolen. I mean, who, it's just bizarre. So I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth it.
Do you think we ought to ask as the Wildwood Historic Preservation Committee or the City of Wildwood?
Maybe the City of Wildwood, because we don't have a Twitter or Facebook, do we? But the city does. I vote with the city.
We can vote both,
And then,
you know, and
I was just thinking,
tag
would they would,
historical.
would they be willing to help out a city? Or
Right.
would they be willing to help out just a
Individual.
commission
Yeah.
that's trying to do this?
Well,
I
they-
think the Historic Preservation Commission would sell more.
That's
It
true.
sounds
That's
like,
true.
hey, you know,
We're
it sounds more
desperate.
like a grassroots effort, doesn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, a
We're
little
city
bit.
commission, so we
Yeah.
still go in the city, but
Yeah.
it's from us.
Do you think they would be interested, Lauren, though, in the fact that we're gonna put it together and then we're gonna take it apart and put it back together?
I
Or
think
do they
so.
want to,
Well, I
they
think
want
we
a
have to
permanent
do
site
that
and we
because
just?
it was
Yeah.
stolen.
Yeah,
I
but they
mean,
may be able to help
They
assemble.
may be able to help us just do it one time.
Put it on a permanent
or-
site.
And they could say, hey, we'll help you, but with a TV shooting schedule, it's 8 months out. So that would still work for
Yeah,
us
sure.
if they could offset the cost. It would give us time.
We're getting
So-
set up
Loves
to
drama.
do it.
It could be their stolen history episode.
I like it. I like it. It's got a theme. We just need to.
If there's
we
a
just-
ghost in the cabin, we
I
can
mean-
go.
I heard that there are mysterious apparitions around the walls.
There is ghosts in
And
the
zombies
big
from
chief.
That's where the
zombies.
zombies
Yes,
came
yeah.
from.
What about
Right.
having a fundraiser with a dunk tank with the thief sitting in the dunk?
Oh,
No, I
that's
don't
pretty
know about
good.
that. I'll get the ACLU here.
And you know what? I mean, we could really ham it up. We could do a little short video of all of us together as a committee asking for help and then tweet
Yeah.
that out too.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
I mean,
Where the belongs in,
Yes.
There's another group,
we're ready for our
Yeah.
close-ups, right?
Lauren, there's another group, the Maine Cabin Builders is on that, has a show just like the
Oh, really?
Barnwood Builders.
Maine is in the state?
Yeah.
Do they
but
come
they've
out of
traveled-
Maine?
Yeah,
They
they
do?
travel and
Oh.
stuff. So there's a couple of options that you see on the cable channels
Okay.
with that. But
Didn't know
Barnwood
about
Builders, it'd be really neat to do.
Oh, it
I thought
would be
when we
neat.
first started
I think they
this,
got a
you
big following.
know.
Yeah.
They
I
really do.
I think I have a
Right.
relative that is in their hometown area, so I'm not sure. We're from there, so yeah. Hey.
We could still do some publicity and fundraising. You know, I guess my
Yeah.
concern would be, how many
Simultaneous.
people outside this room know anything about the Essen cabin? Would you guess, in the general population level?
No.
None.
Under 5%.
Right, so
At the time,
when they come to
but they
Dakota,
forgot
and if we have something in the preservation group that this is what we're trying to do, they may very well donate some money at that time to the cause or something too. But I bet a lot of people don't know about it,
Yeah.
you know?
No.
Yeah, we could explain.
Yeah.
Pennies and loose change, how much would you have to, I mean?
The bricks are really a neat way of doing that. If we had a place to put them, you know, the only thought would be to put them in Route 66 Park. You could also, but we did that years ago at the Olympics in Atlanta, did the bricks down there, and it's still kind of fun 30 years later or 25 years later to go by and see,
Oh, we
step
did
on
it
your
for
name,
Bush
you know?
Stadium, too.
Yeah, in Bush, right. So, and it's not expensive, it's like $15 a brick or 25, but you could, I mean, there's an unlimited amount you could sell, you know? Each family or members or multiples
How
would
much
buy.
does the
you know?
brick cost to buy with the imprinting on it?
Don't know.
I mean, for someone to purchase it or for us to have it?
Us to
Well, I
have
mean,
the
you gotta
input,
go out to
yeah.
the brick company and say, hey, how much
So what's the
would
profit
a
per
inscribed brick cost?
There are various prices depending on the organization who's doing it. The Civil War Museum down at Jefferson Barracks, I think when they were originally selling them, they were 30, for the regular size, was $35.
I'm talking about the original cost from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
How much?
Don't know. We can find out. We were just down at that museum. We can find out where they had theirs done
No, we don't
too.
sell that.
Because it would cost $20 and we sell it for 25.
It's better than blank, all right? But I mean, that's, I think the promotion at this Dakota event of the Essen Cabin is important because I swear there's not a lot of people knows about it
No,
outside.
there's not.
What do you,
I think people would be, willing to donate. I know
I do too.
when we had those books we were giving out, people, well, how much is that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I
I
made
could have
that
said
money.
$5.
Jim was
And they
selling
would've
it.
If there's a place to put the money and information, maybe a picture of the logs piled up there.
Right.
We have
And
photos
some
of that cabin.
graphics of what the cabin will be. This is what we're trying to do in a little story. And you have that set up outside of every concert you have here. People will come and they'll throw $5 in
Steve, we'll give you a bucket and a bell.
He said a red-
I'm not kidding.
A red
I'm not
suit.
kidding.
Steve, what about a
Children's
bucket
book, Who
in
Stole My
100 in Manchester?
Right.
Like they do in Manchester.
Or just get a boot way, a fire truck, and you'd be all right.
Yeah, right.
But when
Why don't
people
we
feel
move
that they're
on?
getting a free concert or a free book
$20
or free something, then they feel a little guilty and they'll donate. And
Why don't we do a
That's a
children's
great
book
idea.
or children's pamphlet, Who Stole My Cabin? A story about how we're trying to rebuild Wildwood's cabin. I mean, it doesn't have to
I think
be
it's
just
great.
like, there's a lot of kids around, it's like,
that's great.
There's a whole story about the cabin.
Yeah,
It's
Who Stole My Cabin?
you
Do we
know,
have
and it's-
pictures of the cabin assembled?
Yeah.
Sure do.
You could show that and then show the
Show the pile.
Well, Cameron Laws, what Chris said, yeah, you could do that on a t-shirt.
Mhm.
We could have an art.
Right, or I'm helping rebuild the cabin, a T-shirt or something.
I think you could do still fundraiser and like just donations at the booth, and it looks, just a quick look online for various fundraisers with brick pavers. It looks like it's probably about $20 a brick,
That's how I figured.
our cost. So you're looking at probably 50 or $100 to make it worth it.
For Old Pond
I think
School-
they want to know where their brick's going to go though.
Yeah.
Well, I think you do it.
Yeah, that's true.
You do it on the site of where the cabin's gonna go, be part, but you'd have to figure out
We gotta
what that
figure where
looks
the
like.
cabin's gonna go.
That's the next thing.
Next
Where
thing.
the cabin goes.
Yeah,
For Old Pond School, we charged $50 for the 4x8 bricks and $200 for the 8x16 bricks.
Okay.
So, and I couldn't find quickly the price that we paid. It's been a while since we ordered them.
4x8 showing $19 and 8x8's $30. Just random vendor.
Are those patio style laid down?
So we got does everybody agree that we want to do this application for the barn bill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
why not?
And social media blitz, just
I'll hammer 'em.
bag and guilt. And positive energy.
Have a bunch of likes on a tweet, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you do that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Make it viral. We'll do our best.
Can we get, or can I get some before pictures and pictures of the pile? See if we can, I'll gladly help on the social media side to try to figure out if we can get in front of these guys.
I could write something.
Thank you.
So it seemed like about half of your ideas, kind of seemed like they were sticking.
It's kind of like home. My ideas are okay.
I was starting the stuff that seemed like.
The other half is
Yeah,
half,
oh,
right?
I love the barn raising idea. Have you guys seen it's an old musical, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers? Do you know the barn scene
Yeah.
where they all hit each other and the thing falls? Okay. That's what I forever will think of, but
Yeah, we got it.
that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, with pattern and knives, when they get to that point, we could certainly do something like that.
And we've already, have we signed a deal with Pattern and Knives for so even if they're gonna put it together and mark it,
Right.
and then they'll come back with a bid or a quote or estimate for the actual construction of it.
That's phase two.
Right.
We didn't take that yet.
Sure, but we're not tied to them doing it either, so
Okay.
if they're gonna go through and do the first phase of this, then Barnwood Builders could do the second phase, if we were
Put it
to
out
get
of order.
lucky enough to get that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, phase two, they were hesitant to give us a price or any type of investment for construction without knowing where it was gonna be located.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that'll be our next.
Phase
Now,
one
the
is
barn-
funded, we funded phase.
Barnwood Builders, they
We
Yes.
funded
do the
phase
actual
one.
construction.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
because I remember.
Because the architect won't, we'll get drawings and specifications and there'll be a contractor to do it, but the Barnwood Builders would be sort of a design build to
Yeah.
figure out how to put together themselves.
Do we have space behind City Hall, next to the gardens? Is there, without encroaching on our green, village
6
green?
acres. There's some space to the east, although it will eventually join a road that will connect down to Manchester Road. The cabin itself isn't very big. It's a two-story. So So my argument could be is we could probably put it to the west and not take much of the 6 acres we own there, if you, that's a choice. We talked about Glencoe City Park, and we talked about Community Park as well.
Put it in Route 66 Park.
Probably would take up too much space. One of the things I didn't mention is that southern half of that lot where the parking lot will probably end up is also underground stormwater detention.
Ah,
Then it would be the Route 1866.
yes. It has a nice ring to it.
We still get the
See what you
66,
did there.
right?
Yeah.
What was the phase one timeline again? Or what are we thinking?
3 months, I think, worth of work probably, and we'll get started until late July.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the thoughts on me when I mentioned that not a lot of people know about this cabin, just in the year or so that I've been involved in the commission, I wasn't aware of all of the cabins that are here, a lot of which are being torn down, obviously. So being able to publicize saving one of these is a big deal, I think, for a lot of residents, you know. They would be very interested in that, and if we could commit to trying to save, or try to raise 25 grand a year, 125 or something, that would be reasonable, I think, to start off with, you know, as far as how we get this done, whether Barnwood does it for free or pays us something is separate from that. But it'd be hard pressed, I think, to raise 50, but till we really publicize the restorations of the cabins, you know.
My numbers were more than anything else, just kind of for conversation. Not, obviously, we could talk this
50.
through.
Yeah, 50 would be good, but that could be a chunk unless we're doing the $200 bricks, you know, or get a carpet sponsor,
Right.
which would help a lot.
Very much so.
What's the cabin syrup? The
Log
the
cabin.
cabin. Brought to you by Almost Maple
Well, you could
Syrup.
find Lincoln Logs too, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Go back as old guys. Good discussion.
So you get everything?
Yep.
You call it the Bear Log Cabin.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, item 4 is byway text.
Okay, Kathy's gonna throw herself on the sword and request and apologize profusely. I don't have them complete. I've said, I know, go ahead. Mr. Compton's been dying to do that, let me put my hand on my, raise my hand. So I've been working on them, and just, some of these roads are a little more difficult to find the history of the road itself. Some have gobbles and gobbles of information, some are real tough to find. I have an email out to MoDOT to assist with Babler Park Drive. I have learned a lot, actually. Babler Park Drive was Pond Road, part of it. And then it became State Route C, and then it was State Route BA, and so we're narrowing it down, and I will have it for you all in the next couple of
Fox
weeks.
is writing a book on the roads right now.
Yes, so that's true, and I've reached out to them in the past, and yeah, it's her book. And so, you know, I think that the sharing of information, I can get some information from the society, but.
And I don't know when it's supposed to go to press.
Yeah, I don't know either. But we're working, we're making good progress. There are 6 in this year's, for the points of interest map. So it's Wild Horse Creek Road, which I know I've read the history before, and I was having trouble locating the book or the document that it was in, for some of the stories. But so we have Wild Horse Creek, Babler Park Drive, Austin Fort, Pond Road, and Rieger Road, and Centaur, which has a huge history along Centaur Road. So yeah, so we're narrowing it down. I apologize profusely. I will get that to you as soon as possible. And it may be one that we seek some input via email on, because we're trying to get it printed and such for the Celebrate Wildwood event. So I wholeheartedly apologize. I can give you all kinds of excuses how we're short for staff members and our number of committees, but we'll just move on to the next one if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions. like what I've been doing and everything else.
But you do have another full-time job other than this, right, that working on this part?
I do?
Yeah.
I do, someday.
The answer is yes.
So we got two other, on their old business, we got two items ready for action. The final review of the display banner for historic communities overview map.
So the commission discussed the banner. We reviewed the first draft a couple of months ago, and as was noted in the memo, it's been a little bit of a struggle to kind of cull information from different graphic designers into one fluid banner and that meets all of the requirements that you all had requested. So, I outlined in the memo, there were 13 changes, and the vast majority of them we've completed, whether staff manipulated the map or the graphic designer was able to complete. There are 3 outstanding items that we were unable to do on the map, and so I want to talk about those, go through them, and see if you are all okay, what your thoughts are, either without those or what the importance is of possibly getting them added. So those 3 items were, the first is to connect the roads outside the city to show regional proximity. And I will note that some already do that. We have Interstate 44, we have Allenton Road where it comes down out of the city. We have Old State Road.
Oh, 109.
And I can't see, yeah, 109, thank you, Old State Road up here, where it goes out of the city, into Manchester, Clarkson Road. We don't necessarily connect all of these out with St. Paul and Ridge and up at Wild Horse Creek and Interstate 40. So that was one that we were kind of unable to complete. We looked at some different icons. Ultimately, we left them the way that they were, which is these blue kind of markers at each of the historic communities. And then the final one was to add the railroad along Centaur Road. We understand the importance historically of the railroad and the role that it played in the Monarch and the Centaur communities. But graphically, I'm just a little bit limited in my graphic design abilities, and I could not pull it off where it looked professional and appropriate, in my opinion. So we left it off of the map. The department's opinion is the map serves exactly the purpose that you all wanted it to serve. It shows where all of the communities are. It provides the history of how the city was named. Talks a little bit about the overall history from nomadic settlers to today, and then lists the 11 historic communities as well. And we highlighted Route 66. We turned all the other scenic byways one color and highlighted Route 66 in red. So So those are the changes we've made. That's what the final product that we've achieved, and we want to know if you all think this is the final project or if we still have some additional work to do.
I would suggest a change on Old 66. You show it coming down to Highway T or to St. Albans Road, going out to 100. It really extends on south past the post office and crosses 100 and goes on the west side of 100 down to Melrose. And I think that's a nice little stretch that I think should be changed.
Yeah, that's a pretty ride through that.
Right, goes by Schatz Pontiac.
Right.
So I just think, but that shows that you're turning right onto St. Albans Road.
Pretty much keeps you on Route 100 from there too then.
Pardon?
The red line keeps you on Route 100 for the most part.
Yeah.
which we could
And
maybe-
actually, that takes you on the route where we had the accident last
Yep.
Sunday. So I'd be nice if they could stay off of that part.
Can we make that change also?
I'll do my best.
So just shifting it to the west on that segment?
Actually, it shifts to the
Yeah.
east, because instead of it turning at St. Albans here, it actually stays on Old Manchester.
There's
Yeah.
a-
But then it crosses over.
Right, and it crosses over,
Onto Old Manchester.
yep, down there, and then but then it does follow 100.
It comes back in, it comes down, crosses, and comes back in where Melrose connects to,
Which is still gonna cross through where the gentleman's hit. I mean, that's still, that's 66, right?
crosses
That part.
over on this side
Yeah, it's right here.
and connects to, yeah,
And
that's
then-
right, yeah.
So those
connects
are-
to
Yeah,
100
junk
there.
that goes
Okay.
across.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Good catch, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, thank you. Any other changes? Anyone?
Something about the second sentence still bothers me in the wording.
Historically, the story.
Can I ponder over it?
You
Yes,
betcha.
ma'am.
Okay.
We appreciate the help. And that's an even.
What about right under Ellisville, there's a red dash to along Manchester 100 there, is that intentional or is that just residual?
That's fine.
Residual.
You know, this,
I will-
Kathy, this answers a lot of the questions that people had at the Celebrate Wildwood event for us when we were in the tent. You know, after reading the book, they didn't know where the historic community was, and that, because there's another map prior to this one that they used, but I think it works fine for what the questions were asked by the public, you know.
Right, and I think the nice part is, we can take this map and we can, I'll send it to the graphic designer who's doing, the other graphic designer who's doing the book itself, and we can try and get this included as well somewhere. So
Yeah, I think it'd be
right in the
great.
book itself.
There was a lot of questions during that event about, you know, after going through the Wildwood book and flipping through and seeing the historic communities, and everybody said, well,
And then there
where
were
are
some
they?
people
you know?
who said, but where I live isn't in one of those communities, what were we?
Yeah.
I said, "Wilderness."
You said what?
Wilderness.
suburbs.
Yeah, right. Glencoe
Here in
suburb.
Ward 5.
Glencoe
Is
suburb.
is the color separation between Hidden Valley and Camp Wyman just supposed to split them?
It's just to show the property delineation. Is it too close? Does it look?
No, I'm just, they're,
It'd be better with a
I'm
line.
assuming they're the only two on there that are really highlighted as recreation.
So that's the other thing, we can remove them. I mean, they're private property. They sort, you know, Hidden Valley more than Camp Wyman, I feel, is kind of a
Identifies.
recognizable.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Camp Wyman.
Location mark. Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
it's the Girl Scout camp?
no.
Kiwanis.
Kiwanis. It's usually at-risk
Okay.
youth that go to Camp Wyman. But they do other meetings and retreats and things like that. So.
I don't know that they need to be removed, I was just looking for
I
the
think I'd
explanation.
they've been there for a
Yeah, I think I'd leave them, it just helps people understand where they are.
Like, you know,
and they're-
like the,
Well, Hidden Valley's not historic.
no, but, you know, some of the other money, the LaSalle Retreat Center and,
Marianist and the Wabash.
Yeah,
I think the white-
that all kind of.
The white printing on Rockwood and Greensfelder, that's really hard to
I
read.
always waiver.
Once you get
since
bigger,
those have
we'll
been
probably
added, I've always wavered them.
like the same.
But I think it's kind of see it, but behind all of it. Because I think they don't fit exactly, they stand out to me for some reason.
Do you risk offending other organizations because they're not on here? Are there others that would
Well, it's
even?
always a risk probably, but I don't know that there are any significant recreation uses in town. I mean, there's Pond Athletic Association, which is not on here. So, you know, there is a case probably to be made to remove them.
Just remove them.
We could also,
It is a historic communities map, right?
I think we also, if we're going to do that, there's 3 points of interest shown on here. The Marianist Retreat Center, LaSalle, and the Wabash Frisco Pacific. We could just remove all 3 of them.
I know.
I
But
think
Marianist
the Wabash
received
thing.
historic.
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
Marianist and LaSalle to stay.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, the Marianist now has Mary Cliff on our registry.
Yeah.
And Camp Wyman, nonprofit, it is a historic property. Now, Hidden Valley is commercial and it's new. So, I would keep just keep Camp Wyman on there.
I would propose we leave them as is on all of those properties. They might not be historic, but they're relevant enough for a draw for people to the area, and I think there's benefit to being able to speak. And people know about Hidden Valley, they don't necessarily know where it is.
Well, and for years, Hidden Valley always advertised that they were in Eureka. So it's good, because they're a Eureka zip code.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
they're in Wildwood.
Although you
When
do
that
know-
sign goes
Most
up,
people have heard Hidden Valley, they don't
Says
know that we have
Wildwood.
historic communities out there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes, to me, it takes a little away from that.
So I have to change Route 66. Councilmember Edens is gonna noodle on the wording of that second sentence in the first paragraph. And I'm gonna remove that red dash that's kind of hanging out under Ellisville very randomly. Any other changes that you?
Are we okay with just leaving the Hidden Valley?
I vote for leaving.
I think fine.
That's not much.
it's just an orientation.
It brings people to
Right.
Wildwood.
Just fine.
Okay. I would appreciate a motion on this. I think we're at a point where if, with the changes as noted, maybe
That's
if we
good.
could. Yeah, if you trust me to make those.
Are we trying to have this banner by Wildwood Days?
Yes.
Okay. Move on.
So I'll take a.
I'll take a motion.
Michael? Josh, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Thank you.
The one thing down here at the bottom, town center area, then the key at the bottom, it kind of fades away, that little pink down there.
Yeah, I can't, let me darken that up a
Because
little bit.
when it's up here showing where it is, it stands out nicely.
Yeah, 'cause of
But
the
down
lighted
here, it just
background.
kind of fades away.
I agree. Okay. I'll add that. If no one's objectionable, I'll add that to the list of changes too. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the update on the work program. Okay, at least that's what I do.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, as you know, over the past couple of years, each of our monthly meetings, the department provides to you an update of our work program. Our work program changes each year. As we conclude a year, we talk about what we've achieved and what we'd like to do in 2019. Typically, at the first meeting of the new year, we adopt the work program for that upcoming year. As you can see, our work program is extensive. We have 15 items that we are at some point either working on, working toward completion, or have not started. On the first page, I just really want to highlight one of those. Repair of the WPA wall at Old Pond School. That looks like we're going to kick off this coming month, July. Part of the delay was the weather. They were hoping for less wet conditions, hotter temperatures, drier weather for the most part. Ken Keitel, who is with a company called TerraSpec, that did the bid process for us, has been in contact with the contractor, so we're expecting that to happen this July. I know there was requests for us to try to do some type of video history of the repair, so we could put that on our website. We are looking into that, see how that might be done. So I'll have more information as we get closer to that startup. On page 2, just to give you an update on Bellevue Farms, the property on St. Paul Road, the historic Sherman community. The volunteers, the group of 10, or the 10 groups that have been doing the fauna flora review, the bird survey, they are nearing completion. They too have been slowed by wet weather, but this weekend is supposedly the second of the 2 bird studies or surveys, and then they'll pretty much be done. Once we have that report complete, we have bits and pieces of it, but I think it's more confusing than not having it as a full document. We'll get that to you as quickly as possible. Key to all of this is that we met with St. Louis County. 3 of the representatives from Sherman were there as well. Make a long story short, I think St. Louis County understands we're trying to do the right thing because it's critical. We're supposed to have the park open by January of 2020. And so I think having the Sherman residents there, having our story be told so that the county could hear it firsthand instead of maybe from second or third hand, hopefully will work to our benefit. We are looking at some changes to the design. You'll see those next month. St. Louis County received them. We're asking them to give us some comments. So lots going on there. In terms of a couple of other items, for the most part, they're self-explanatory. The bylaws. At your chairs tonight, I set the revised copy that was acted upon by the Historic Preservation Commission at our May meeting. There were 2 changes. I'm running out of highlights in different colors, but they're dark green, bolded, underlined, and italicized. And they're, for all intents and purposes, Section 4, item number 3, or Article 4, Section 3, which relates to the quorum. And then I failed to add the condition on the last page, so that was pretty just grammatical error. So those are complete. You adopted those. I wanted you to see them one last time, and then next time you see them, all that red, yellow, blue, green, and et cetera will be gone. So just wanted to make sure you knew that we completed what you requested. The chapter of history, Ms. Von Gruben is
Complete.
It is at the graphic designer.
It's at the graphic designer. So relatively speaking, we're ahead of schedule finally on one thing. So good for all of us.
Let's just stop at one item.
And then on the final page, I think that just give you a couple of updates. Commissioner Hammond was at the John L. Mccabe Memorial Trailhead opening and ribbon cutting. Thank you for attending. That project is complete. Now the fun part starts, seeing how people use it and the changes we need to make to really address how it's best used for them. We go through all the design and engineering and think of every potential this, that, or the other. And when people start using it, you realize, oh, we should have did that instead of this. And so there'll be a few minor changes, but that project is, for all intents and purposes, complete. I'm sure you're driving through Manchester Road Phase 3 Streetscape and State Route 109 project. For the most part, like I say, progress is being made, particularly on State Route 109. You seem to have made a lot of strides in a short couple of months. And then finally, attached to the update, we did give you the amended report on Phase 3 of Community Park. There was just a few changes the archaeologists wanted to make, and so we thought we'd give it that final version. Kathy and I are available for any questions or comments. Thank you.
On the bylaws, where is the thing on quorum?
I will, let me find my thread here.
I just read it. It's on
Item 3, it's in,
Page 5.
section 3.
Page 5, item 3. In the minutes that were approved, basically, you set the requirements, so I can read them to you real quickly here if you want.
Okay, I see.
Got it? The new sentence just basically reads, the city council representatives and the planning and zoning commission liaison shall not be considered voting members nor constitute any part of a quorum.
Yeah.
And then struck all the rest of it. Sorry.
You can still come.
That's all right. And you can't make us not.
Well, actually, I think they could change the bylaws.
Oh, shoot. We better be on good behavior,
Lost
Steve.
track, but Russ Rusner was supposed to be making a standard to put in the sign. Was that for Cohen Park?
Yes.
Is that project been completed?
No. Shortly after, the Historic Preservation Commission recommended the design of that park sign, and City Council approved it. Mr. Rosner's mother passed away.
I know.
And it's still pretty fresh and raw for him. I talked to him back in March and said that the project had been approved, and once he was ready, we'd be ready. So it's just, I guess, waiting to see when he feels like getting back to his normal schedule.
Okay.
Then we get
Last
last
but
item
not
on the
least.
Manchester Road. This is a surprise.
Yes, it is.
It was a surprise to you too.
Very much so. So, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we kind of alluded to it earlier. Commissioner Rubis asked about it. And so here's the story as best as I can relate it. At the start of this week, Karen Yeomans, who's the area engineer for the Southwest District of Missouri Department of Transportation, sent an email basically saying that the Manchester Road right-of-way, old Manchester Road for lack of a better way of describing it, had never formally been transferred from the state of Missouri to St. Louis County, which would have allowed it to be transferred to the city of Wildwood at the time of its incorporation. All of the paperwork between the state of Missouri and St. Louis County had been completed, but they had concluded their efforts with the maintenance agreement, meaning that St. Louis County took over the maintenance of Manchester Road through St. Louis County, at least in the city of Wildwood, but never had accepted the right-of-way for the purposes. And so what that means is that since 1830, when the development and construction of Manchester Road was commissioned by the state legislature, it has remained property owned by the state of Missouri. St. Louis County put it on their arterial system when Route 100 was completed and rerouted some of the traffic off of Old Manchester Road. They removed it from the arterial system shortly before the incorporation so they would not have to maintain it, and gave it to the city of Wildwood for that purpose. And so, for the most part, the Department of Administration here at the city of Wildwood said, we'd like to proceed forward. But before doing that, we wanted the Historic Preservation Commission to endorse the acceptance of the right-of-way, which ultimately gives us the greatest amount of control and settles a lot of questions, I think. But that recommendation then would be forwarded to City Council so we could proceed in that direction and complete the process that was started back in the mid-1980s and was never finalized. To answer Commissioner Rubis's question, the original portion of Route 66 that's on that property, that is the pavement that was installed at the time the route was being constructed, we cannot find any references to it being vacated and returned to the property owners from which it was taken. And so the question becomes, is it still state right-of-way? And as part of this process, that's the question we're going to answer. If we're lucky, it would be state right-of-way, which means once we accept Old Manchester Road, it becomes ours.
Which property are we referring to, or?
The wedge up by,
By Deerbirds, right?
I shucks.
By Schnucks,
Yeah.
you'll give.
where the mobile station's up over here.
Sorry, I don't know the direct link to the county map, but we'll find out.
I thought you actually remembered the property.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the
Yeah.
property
Yeah,
owners.
Very, I'm sorry to disappoint.
That's all right.
It's 167 something Manchester, 16701.
Yep, there it is.
So see the little star by the address?
Mhm.
That's the Route 66 right of way.
I'm not sure what we're looking at. I'm sorry, where's the mouse cursor?
16701.
Just right there in the
Right
middle?
there. Let me zoom in and see.
Oh, okay. So that was pavement.
We should take that pavement and put it in the Route 66 park.
Yeah.
So
Get out there with your pickaxe.
Part of-
Start now.
part of
Don't
what,
break it out.
part of what
That's
makes the
crazy.
department think it might never have been vacated is that there's a utility line through
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And utility lines usually are within the right of way. And it's not to say that an easement wasn't granted, but this gives us an opportunity as part of the title work and the transfer of Manchester Road from the state of Missouri to the city of Wildwood, to actually investigate that.
So what's the potential,
Yeah.
let's say the state comes back and says, yes, that is gonna be transferred to the city of Wildwood. What's the potential use other than being a thorn in that property owner's side?
Well, it will be a thorn in the property owner's side because obviously the right-of-way isn't part of the property.
Sure.
It now divides that lot into
Yep.
2 parcels of ground. It also then establishes setbacks from either side of it as well. So they lose additional area of the lots.
Sure.
The setback requirements. The benefit is that wind development proposals have been submitted on that property.
Mhm.
It's the first item that the department identifies. You can't remove it. And some have been more receptive than others because it does split the lot into 2 parts. If it's public right-of-way, then it's protected.
Sure. It could be a cool, connection between the trail to the.
Yeah, if you cleaned it up to the road.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's pretty rough terrain there to the east.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And
Almost unusable.
How unique is that, having a remaining section of pavement of that route? Is that a unique thing, or, in this area it probably is it not?
the president, at the time of the Missouri Route 66 Association, called and talked to me. This was years ago, and said, do you realize what you have?
Uh-huh.
There's not a lot of it left, and this is really untouched. Because it has been protected by the bypass and the relocations and things like that. He said, you just can't let it be removed. I said, well, I don't know what that means. But fortunately, no one's interested right now, so I
But-
guarantee at least today.
Could it be a tourist destination? Is it that, is there that much interest in that type of thing?
I don't know, because if the right-of-way is retained,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 60 feet of width. It doesn't give a whole lot of,
Right.
It could be a good biking. You could, from the Route 66 park, there could be a map on how to get to
Or you
original
could
pavement
connect
of
it
the.
to the
of the
trails.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's not an easement, it's actually right-of-way that's owned by it. It's
Right.
not like a lot of old county roads were just easements and your property went to the middle of the road.
right. This is, at least the portion of Route 66 that's Manchester Road. It was a 60-foot wide dedication extracted by the state legislature in the 1930s. And this is, we call it Route 66, but this is actually part of the original Manchester Road.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, most of the original Manchester Road's been so altered over the years, you'd be hard pressed to know what it looks like.
Including the north section.
Yep. We've radically changed it in town center. So, it's a great opportunity. It just seemed like there's gotta be a silver lining to all of this, instead of us just having to spend some money now to do some survey, some plats, so to speak, some legal descriptions, those things, because it didn't seem like St. Louis County got as far along as I'd hoped. But it's really an opportunity to see what, is that public or is it private?
Is there more of it there if you would clear off some vegetation? Is there more of it underneath there?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's actually 2 full lanes, and there's still some striping left.
How much would it cost to uncover that, do you think?
Oh, that would, to me, that would be a great project for a group.
Well, this connection, we got sidewalk here, we got trail right here, and that connects those two.
Yeah.
Not for cars,
No,
but for people walking and.
If we own it, couldn't we just have a path right through there, get people to go walk along that? I mean, it seems, I mean, I'm not a person who's really super excited about Route 66. I think it's really cool. I wouldn't go to another state to find original pavement of Route 6, but are there people who would do that?
There is a lot of people like
Yeah.
Well, then that seems like an asset.
What's on your hat? It says 66 right on your hat.
Well, that's 66 degrees. No, I mean, I'm, don't get me wrong, I mean, I think it's really cool, I mean, now, I mean, that, the fact that I live here, I would go do that. But what I'm asking, is that something that some fans of Route 66 would say,
You
go
do
and
enough
find?
things, you get Big Chief, you get a park, you get that, then you
Publicize.
start
You
to.
put those logos on
That's
that
a,
pavement.
that, I mean, that's an economic draw. I mean, people from Europe, every time I'm staying in Railhaven, there's Germans, there's Europeans, they're staying in that hotel all the
They'll
time.
stay at the Wildwood Hotel
Yes,
to
they
go and
will.
walk on the,
Original pavement.
I'll guarantee you, and we publicize that, that's international draw, not just
oh man, let's do it.
Yeah.
You need a bigger.
thinking big.
We're gonna need multilingual, like brochures, translators.
We have
So
pavement.
one of those lots we could buy for the Wildwood Airport.
take
People
that.
to fly
Yeah,
in,
they
yeah.
pay for either. That's right.
Little plane.
And we even have some bubble gum from 1942.
So at this point, you're looking for a motion for support from the commission?
yes, motion from the commission endorsing the city proceeding forward with the acceptance of the right of way.
I would like to make the motion that
Chris
the.
makes the motion, Michael second. I'm not, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm not even gonna say the nays, because I'll just run you out the door. So it's unanimous.
That, okay, the property that's west of that, that's over 3 acres. I mean, it's not like he's got a piece of property now that he can't do anything with. I mean, it would be a marketable piece of property there.
Maybe the
Maybe split.
maybe when weather's a little more favorable and there's not so many ticks and chiggers. When they,
When's that gonna happen?
they did
Middle
a
of
new
winter.
section of Route 100.
Blue
One
screen,
of
that's
the
bad.
locations they put the spoils, the excess fill, is down here, so it almost looks like a burial mound.
Yeah.
And it kind of parallels here. And the thought was, we'll get the excess, we'll get the spoils from the road project and eventually cover over the creek. But those are there. And then as I think Mr. Rubus mentioned, this really slopes down here, terrain wise. It's just a difficult site.
I remember the guy that was looking for a senior living center there.
Yeah.
That entire property
That was
is more
kind
than
of
12
throwaway.
acres.
Okay.
That's why he wanted to build a
That's right.
5-story
It's
building.
really big.
6
plus it's
acres,
in-
7 acres there, yeah.
Right, it's 12 acres, plus it's in town center, so it has a much higher
Okay.
Is there-
density than, it's not a 3 acre.
Is there a house? And that's the place, the property that had the barn that.
Yeah, that's the barn.
Yeah,
in-
right.
in
Is there a house there
Kyle.
too?
Yeah,
Someone
there's
lives there?
still a house. I don't know if anybody lives there.
There's a fire
Yeah.
and it's been demoed.
The house has?
It's just a vacant tract now.
Does one,
Get them to
one
donate it, make another
individual,
park.
does one individual own both those pieces of property or that now, so?
I think
Well, it's one piece.
It's one piece.
The question is, should it be
It's
two,
gotta be
because
two
there's a
pieces.
potential right-of-way issue, so. But that's still, the survey, you could find out that it was given back to that property at some point. It's just unknown right now.
Right. And we depend on the assessors maps from St. Louis County to give us a lot of information. they have tendencies to combine parcels under this, they can be separate lots, but they'll show them as a single lot because they're owned by the same person or entity. So you think, oh, it's one lot, when actually it's two. So you have to be careful, but I could just see where that right-of-way could be real confusing to somebody, and the assessor's office might have said, well, who knows? So that's why I think it was, we'll put a positive spin on this and say maybe it's our opportunity to find out.
Yeah.
These are the results of a map maker looking at the original surveys. These aren't the surveys.
Exactly.
So those aren't legal property descriptions.
Joe, what do you think the market value
Yeah, nice piece of
of
property.
16701 is?
Well, it's in the millions of dollars.
It's, yeah.
Is that the, is it the Desco or that has that listed?
By St. Louis County.
Crazy, 260.
$216,000 on county website. That is so wrong.
That's not.
That doesn't even mean,
No.
and that's at a residential,
20 years.
has
You
commercial
don't think
potential.
Desco bought it when they did the Schnooks,
Well,
right?
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know, I
they're
don't know if
praising
they
it
own
and
it,
assessing
but they
it
have
only
a listing
residential.
on it.
So,
And they tried to put a senior living center.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, that's all we had.
Joe, how many acres is that
12,
triangle, 12 acres?
yes, 12.17 acres.
Well, that's worth a few bucks.
Yeah.
Wildwood.
That would be nice. if it-
Before we ask for a motion to adjourn.
Question?
I just wanted to thank the city and the staff for the lovely appreciation dinner that we had last week. I think it was very good, first class.
It was.
Thank you, council people, they're the ones that say it's okay to do.
You're the one that does the work, though.
Thank council people.
Would it be possible, even though I missed roll call, to be marked present? Would that be possible?
No, you have to be here when the meeting.
Well, I
They
got here
changed that in
late,
the
so I'll leave
bylaws.
early.
All right.
That's right.
I do have one additional question. So we talked about the Route 66 Big Chief event and doing the booth
Yes.
there. We mentioned Celebrate Wildwood and the booth there. Is there anything that we need to start doing? We've got one meeting between now and the 24th of August. What do we need to be doing, or what can we be doing to help with that?
We'll have a schedule at the next meeting, so we'll ask for volunteers to fill the time slots. We'll have hopefully all of the items, maybe minus the book and the points of interest map, that we'll be handing out there. And then we'll ask for your suggestions, things that you got question about that you might be beneficial. We're also going to try to promote it as part of our public relations as we get closer to the event. As you all talked about, bringing things, if you have something you'd like to share with the commission, bring it along, we can take a picture of it. We can, if it's not something that's, we can take a picture of, at least we can talk about it, get some notes. So we are going to do that as well.
In reading that report about the community park and what is a flake?
It's a little.
There's a lot of definitions to that.
Besides the debate.
So there's pictures. You'd say it's a rock.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually like on the church, the Berlin church, where they actually take off a piece and you can see that it's flaked off. So when they're making, let's say, a knife, it'll be
So it's
flaked
like,
off.
it'd be
So
like
it's
a
man-made.
chisel or something.
It's like the debitage from the tool.
Thank you, sir.
We have our
Differentiate a
airline.
flake from a rock, just a piece of broken piece of rock.
Bulbs of,
Yeah,
bulbs
true.
of percussion, there's certain things.
Those look like rocks to me.
Yeah.
I think the definition of
I
tonight's
have
debate goes better.
two items under other. First, before you all leave tonight, as part of our appreciation of your spending your day at Celebrate Wildwood out in what will likely be a very cool day, Joe prayed for
Promised us.
75. I don't pray for it because we can get struck by lightning probably.
Be better than being.
Anyway, it'll probably be 100 degrees, but we will, the city provides polo shirts with the Celebrate Wildwood logo. They're the same as last year. If you have one from last year and want to keep it and reuse it, great. If you want another one, great. And if you didn't get one. So what I would like on here is your name, the sizes. We have small to 3XL. You can pick either a women's or a men's cut. and either 100% cotton or a dry fit shirt. So if you don't mind doing that before you leave, I would greatly appreciate it.
They'll be the same color.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the last thing I have is, we received a request for a partial demolition on a historic property out off Pond Road from Mr. Phelan. I have this one, most of the buildings on the property, the Stewart Farm. Most of the buildings on the property go back to 1900, and I think the original log cabin even predated that. So he is, we can pass these around, these are part of the application, but it's a partial demo, he's not taking all of it down, but there is a fair amount that is going to be removed. So we need to schedule a site visit to review that demolition proposal. I spoke with the property owner today and I looked at the staff availability based on our meeting calendar. And I'd like to see, I'll throw the date out if you want to check your calendars and let me know. You can email me in the next couple of days, but we'd like to do it July 10th, sometime between 4 and 5:30. I'll send out an email first thing, I might even send it out tonight, or first thing tomorrow morning to check calendars and let me know. And not to totally put pressure on you, but Joe and I are both out of the office next week, so if you can actually get back with me tomorrow so I can schedule it, since it is the week we come back, I'd appreciate it, so.
What was the time again, Kathy?
The location is 1333 Pond Road, so it's right.
William Hamilton's original land grant.
Yes, yes. Yep, and it is, right next to Pond Athletic Association, that's the one, yeah.
And the Stewart family had owned it. Now Mike Phelan, who owns much of the property down in Centaur, at Centaur Road, purchased it.
What does he plan to do with it? Didn't we know?
When I talked with him, he said, I want to restore the buildings, I want to clean up the property, and I'm not planning to subdivide.
I was getting ready to write him a letter to see about gaining access to it, so this will take care of that.
And hopefully he'll be there that day, you can talk to him directly.
Yeah, he is available July 10th. So just, I'll give you a quick, brief overview. It's 51 acres. The home is noted as built in 1940, but that's not the year of I'll have to pull the inventory to get, there's a log cabin inside. But there's 2 poultry houses built in 1900, a detached garage in 1900, a flat barn, a frame utility shed, and 2 pole barns, all 1900. Now we know St. Louis County loves to average everything out to 1900, so they're probably, we'll pull our inventory and provide that to you as well. But this has been a property that has, been untouched for a very long time. 1333 Pond Road, and it's just.
Mr. Strunger lives right by it.
Yeah, if I had a couple million, I might buy it.
It's just west on the north end of Pond Ballpark, Pond Athletic Association.
It's amazing, there's cabins underneath all that. Who would know?
Does this just recently get purchased?
He purchased it back earlier this year,
January,
the end of January.
No, I thought he was bringing in cattle or something like that.
He didn't mention that to me.
Yeah, he did.
I was more worried about, are you subdividing, which,
Right.
and he's just one of those people that doesn't need to subdivide property.
Mhm.
So he's the one who has the property across the street from the hotel or the station there in Centaur, and then has also that barn with the old cars, or old trucks along Centaur. Okay. Yeah,
He got a lot of money.
Not too bad.
You ever addressed all the
51
signs
acres of
then?
low was not
Looks
too
kinda
bad.
cool, but
You must have stolen it.
He must
yeah,
have.
it's pretty expensive.
I mean, can you imagine what that's worth now?
Place to correct that.
Mr. Compton, 2.25 million.
Whoa. Darn, it was a
Okay,
little
I'll
little less than that, I could buy it.
adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Steve,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
What, are we getting,